What is good, world? How are you guys doing on Facebook Live? What's up to our podcasters out there? This is Now That's Debatable. We are back on a regularly scheduled day, which is Monday. I am Sidney Smith. My brother there sitting there co-hosting the show with me forever now is Mr. Dion Curry. We're happy to be with you. Want to ask you guys before we even get moving on anything else, click that share button. And if you're watching this on YouTube right now, go ahead and click that subscribe button. With all that said, very happy to be here. Shout out to our podcast listeners as well on Apple, Stitcher, iHeart, so on and so forth. We do appreciate you. And a lots of love to all of our folks like Mary Ballard who, clock in with us every single week that we can be on here on Facebook Live. Dion, what's good with you, bro?
Happy Monday to you, my brother. Good to see you. Good to be seen by you. I'm excited for this show. It's 9/11. 9/11. Wow, what a day, right? What a freaking day. I remember exactly where I was when that first plane hit the towers. So this day it's it's one of those days where as time moves on, you kind of you hear people tell their stories, and I always hear something new. I got down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole earlier today as I
Not
was on
you.
Twitter.
Not
Yeah.
you.
Well, not me personally, no, but like, so I was on Twitter and, obviously it was trending. So I click on it and I scroll down a couple and I see one guy who's like, I used to believe it was a conspiracy. And then I got help. And then I clicked on that thread and I kind of read some things. And it was just really interesting to see, random Twitter people. I don't know if they're bots or not, don't really care. But just the back and forth conversation that they were having was kind of cool.
We talk about this every year. We do this because we don't want to be callous. Because there's some people out there. Because if we want to hear from you, if you want to share where you were, because like Dion and I were talking about in our pre-show, everyone remembers where they were, even if you were in the third grade. I'm assuming that came from Chelsea. Said I was
Yep.
in the third grade. Everyone remembers where they were. So if you want to talk about it, if you want to share a memory or a moment, maybe you lost someone in the towers. If this is a time you want to share that, we always want to be open to that. When it comes to me, and Dion and I have talked about this on several occasions, you guys have heard me talk about it. I ignore all news if I can on 9/11, just because for me, and you guys know if you're a fan of the show, you've been watching, if you've been listening to the podcast, you know how much I love this country, flaws and all. It is always a heartbreaking thing for me to even imagine it. And I was talking with a friend today, standing there in a warehouse. I worked for a company. All of us rushed to this warehouse. They pulled it. If some of you are old enough to remember back in school when they would have the TV on the cart, the TV cart, and someone pulled a TV cart out to the warehouse so everybody could stand there and watch. And they got it out in time for us to see the second plane go. And just to, like, it chokes me up now. And to see that and to have to relive that again, even though I wasn't on that block and I didn't lose anyone, as far as I know, lose anyone in that tower. It's a heart wrenching thing for me. And I couldn't imagine dealing with this if I did have loved ones in the tower, if I was there on that street that day, if I was just a New Yorker. I just couldn't imagine it. And to the callous way for me that the media exploits it is what I'm going to call it every single year with the footage and the retelling of the stories over and over again is too much for me. So I really, really try to avoid all things every single year on this day when it comes to that.
DraftKings got in trouble earlier today because they had a never forget parlay where they put the New York Mets, the New York Yankees, and the New York Jets in a three-team betting parlay as sort of a way to commemorate the evening, and that was trending on Twitter as well. As people were like, how you shouldn't be marketing to remember 9/11 this way, and so on and so forth. Which I hey, I get it. If you're working at DraftKings, you're not thinking that, hey, maybe this might affect people emotionally. You're just thinking, oh, it's New York and pride or whatever. Granted, I don't know why anybody would bet on that parlay. The Mets and the Yankees are terrible this year. and the Jets lost Aaron Rodgers in the first quarter, so they're not going to be any good this year either. So it was just a dumb, young person who doesn't understand the gravity of that day.
And I hope that it was someone Chelsea's age who was in third grade who may not understand what that day means to so many people older than them. But does this person run DraftKings? Because someone above that idiot has to be able to say, "Come on, bro, do better." Or if this was your third fuck up, put your shit in the box and get out of here. Because
It's
this is that is so I can't think I probably could if I sat here for a minute. That's probably the most callous thing I've heard someone trying to do in terms of trying to make money off of a national disaster like that. I mean, the only thing I can think of more is whenever Time Life would run the fucking stupid magazines or books that they would sell about the Vietnam War or Pearl Harbor. Like those commercials all of a sudden will pop up right around, the anniversary of the bombing
mhm.
of Pearl Harbor, that type of thing. I have always found a strong distaste for taking advantage of people's pain in that way. And I'm a capitalist and all, but damn it, fucking a, is there not a fucking line? You're not a bookie in the alley waiting to break people's legs because they Joey D was short on $20 he owes you from the Jets game. You are a public company.
I find
Jesus
that to
Christ, man.
I find that to be hilarious coming from you as a capitalist to where you think that there are certain things that you can't capitalize on. Whereas, me, I'm like, it's all fair game. If somebody's gonna if you're gonna sell it, people are gonna buy it, right? And this has been our biggest debate on this show is when is too much? And for hear you to say that a national disaster like that is too much for you, where I look at it is I remember that day and the weeks after how everybody was so patriotic except for if you were a Muslim.
Yeah,
And
we
I
talked
had a
about that.
lot of I had a lot of Muslim friends in high school, and I saw how this affected them. It's one of those things where I get what DraftKings was trying to do, and I get the pushback from it. But at the end of the day, it's it's capitalism. It's there's nothing more American than that. So
Well, I'm not saying, and I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying for me, and I'm people who are older than me who went through their own tragedies. There's people who's still walking around who lived through Pearl Harbor, who probably thought they would never see anything like that happen ever again. But for me, there is a line, and again, as a capitalist and a proud one, other than fucking selling, say slave labor and that type of thing. This is my fucking line. And if I'm running a public company like DraftKings, you gotta have a fucking line, man. It can't be let's put a 3-team parlay all the New York teams together and see if we can make a quick buck off of people's pain. Because what jackass, maybe Joey D over there, the same dude got his legs broken by the bookie back in the day, is over there. You know what? 9/11. I think a perfect bet to make would be this 3-team parlay of all the New York teams. This is the fucking way to go today. Then who the fuck is making this bet?
one guy actually said I put 1776 on the 9/11 parlay. Hashtag never forget. Well, he, he got his money refunded because they canceled the parlay. But
This is
it's
this is
just
what's wrong with this
it's
country,
one of
man.
those things, man, where if you live in this country, man, there's always going to be a person out there scheming and plotting to make a buck. I mean, whether it's the Red Cross or DraftKings or the people who go and buy up a shit ton of water and try to sell it during times of crisis. There's always going to be those people in this country because that's what we promote here. It's not about community. It's about, hey, if I can make money off of it, I'm gonna make money off of it.
Well, here's where I'll push back on that. And for anybody out there who wants to let us know what's going on or anything, please let us know how you feeling about the day, or if you're agreeing or disagreeing. I see Wade jumped in and said hello, and he said, "Hey man, bro, can't express it." So I think he's agreeing with me there. What I would say is my only pushback on that is you touched on it earlier, and we've touched on this on the show before. The only sense of community that stands out or did stand out was during that time period. And we talked about it before. That's where I don't care what color your skin was, as long as you didn't have a Middle Eastern accent or war, whatever, or didn't you weren't Islamic, or whatever people felt about that region of the world, everybody was riding together on that. And so we were a sense of community at that point in time when that happened. And we should still, if no other day, have some type of sense of fucking community on this day every year, if no other day. You want to bet on when Jesus was born? Fine. You want to bet on if Santa Claus is going to slip and break his neck before he can get down that fucking chimney? Fine. If you want to bet that the tooth fairy fucks the kid's mom before he takes the fucking money or leaves the money, whatever it is you want to do, bro, whatever it is you want to bastardize, feel free to do it. Just don't touch this day.
See, and to me, I just find that to be so hypocritical. Like 9/11 isn't above any other. If you you literally just put 9/11 above Jesus when it comes to making a dollar, which I find to be absolutely ridiculous.
I put it above that because no, I put it above that because everyone doesn't vibe with Christmas. Everyone doesn't vibe with Christianity. Everyone doesn't
And
vibe
not
with church.
everybody,
It's okay. Go
not
ahead. Go ahead.
everybody, not everybody vibes with the story around 9/11. That was part of the conspiracy theory rabbit
Yeah, but
hole
no
that I
one's
kind of
talking
went.
about the story around 9/11. We're talking about the people that actually died.
Right.
Fuck.
And I understand that. That was a tragedy. One of the cool stories that I saw today was there was a guy who worked for Stanley Morgan, which was in the South Tower. He used to have a megaphone, and he would, you know, he ignored because they people in the North when the North Tower got hit, they told people to stay in place, that everything was a-okay. And he had been running these emergency drills for years, and he got on his megaphone and he ushered all of the Stanley Morgan employees out. It was I think 20, either 22 or 2,300 people that he got out of those offices in time to save their lives. And unfortunately, he went back into the tower to try and help more people. And that's when it all came down on top of him and he passed away. But it was just one of those, it's one of those things where the story around it, whether you believe the conspiracy theory or not, the tragedy of everyone losing their lives and the way that they lost their lives is really, really sad. But for me, as I look at that event and I have a hard time believing the government's story about it. How much was redacted from the 9/11 report, and just the coincidences surrounding this event. Just it, if you live in America and if you understand how our government works, it is just extremely fishy that all these things
Please don't go
went.
down the rabbit hole where the government is the one who perpetrated this on its own citizens.
I'm just saying they capitalized a great deal off of it in the aftermath and the years since. That's all I'm saying.
We'll go to some comments here before we continue on. Thank everybody for joining us. I see Bruce is with us. What's good? Bruce says he was in junior high school and watched a lot of the news on my free periods at home. Wade is with us, I mentioned before. Looks like Michelle is with us. Michelle, what's good? You're looking great in those photos. I saw the photos that you took with Dion after the show he did on Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on Saturday. So looking good there, Michelle. Mary's with us as usual. I know Chelsea's in here. Deanna cleared this up for me, but Facebook user says I was in Orlando, sleep. My mother, who's in the army, was on travel duty. She had gotten a plane to North Carolina so she could wake me up and with a call and says, "Hey, baby, I hear you. You sound like you're just waking up. I just want you to know I'm okay." Immediately, I was worried. Why is Ma calling and telling me this? Must be something wrong. She tells me that she'll call me right back. So I turn on the TV. I was blown away.
That was Tanika Jenkins.
What's up, Tanika? Thank you for joining us.
She was 18.
Okay. So yeah, everyone old enough to kind of be blown away as you were. I think even if you were in junior high school, as young as that, as Bruce was. I mean, this was a significant event that happened. I mean, you got to see people coming out of the buildings as well. As you
Yeah.
stood there and you watched this. This was something I hope no one ever sees again in their lifetime. Right now, this was you couldn't. The closest thing we got to this was being taught about Pearl Harbor and what that was like and what that meant to people and the tragedy that was for people during that time and how they carried that with them going forward and how we got into a war because of it and so on and so forth. I mean, you just never ever, you can just never think you ever witnessed that, whether in person or with your own eyes on TV.
Yeah, it was when I remember I was in world history. I was a sophomore in high school, and I literally walked into world history. This was happening as the periods were changing, and he had the TV on CNN, and I remember seeing the smoke from the first tower, and I remember watching the second plane hit. I remember watching people jump out of burning building to their deaths, like on live TV, which is something that thankfully I've never had to watch again. But as it's happening, it's one of those things where it was one of the most surreal moments of my life to be like, is this real? I
Yeah.
mean, it was worse than any movie plot that you could think of, especially for me being as young as I was back then. I couldn't fathom anything like this ever happening here in America. Of course, you hear stories. You know you've seen the documentaries on Pearl Harbor and Vietnam and stuff like that, but it wasn't. I mean, I wasn't alive during those times, so it wasn't something that really resonated with me as someone who could process my emotions and thoughts. This was the first event in my lifetime that as a whole country we were all just completely shocked and surprised and didn't understand what was happening. It was eerily silent at a high school that had
Yeah.
over 1,300 kids in it. And I mean, it was one of those things where the principal came over the PA, and he's kind of breaking down what's happening. Everybody's watching it. We didn't switch classes. I stayed in that classroom the entire day
Yeah.
until they released us to go home. It was one of those things where thankfully we haven't had anything quite like that, but it was shocking to that's the word I would use, just completely shocking.
And I would say, even with Pearl Harbor, not to minimize any tragedy or anyone's feelings, though that was in one of the 50 states, that was in Hawaii. That wasn't on the continental U.S. I mean, that this almost having this happen on the continental U.S. takes it to another level to me in my mind to a certain extent. And maybe that's because, like you, I was able to see it, and I can still see it in my mind right now, and I'm trying to hold it together right now while we talk about it. Yeah, it's just I can't do it. I can't
And,
watch the coverage. I can't. It's just not for me.
and not to compare tragedies or anything, but it was war going on in the world when Pearl Harbor happened. So
That too. That
it
too.
wasn't, granted it was unexpected, but at the same time, like it was, you could say it would be a reasonable thing for a bombing to happen during wartime. 2001, there was nothing going on. We weren't in conflict with anybody, that outside of what we had always been dealing with in the Middle East. So it was just one of those things where it was just like a regular day for everybody, and then boom, you know, the first plane hits, then the second plane hits, and then you hear about the Pentagon, and then you hear about the plane in Pennsylvania, and it was just one of those things like everybody's freaking out. Are we under attack? What the hell is going on? It was really scary.
Yeah, I absolutely. Let's see here. Facebook here says I was too. I'm sorry. I was young to completely understand, but I knew it was serious when I meant mean ass teacher that shows no emotions ever was crying her eyes out, and also you could feel a whole different vibe in the air completely. I'm assuming that's Chelsea coming back with that.
Yeah.
Slim is on with us. Says what up, though? What's good, bro? Excuse me, I got to sneeze. You wonder. Excuse me.
Bless you. Yeah, bless you.
Thank you. I apologize to our listeners. I apologize to our viewers as well. Charles says, "How did that third building fall?" All right. I'm going to skip past the rest of this because this is just weird
The
conspiracy shit.
conspiracy.
Yeah, this weird Charles conspiracy shit as usual. Way too many things that don't add up when you look deeper into it. All right, fine. Let me roll back since you guys want to dig this way. Charles says, "How did that third building fall? Why did they pull the air security? What about that insurance policy the owner of the WTC took out right before this happened?" So many questions. I was already in Saudi Arabia when this happened, and we were ready for war, not knowing the truth behind it all. Slim, I would say that you still don't know the truth behind it all. I think because, and you and I have this debate all the time, and I have this debate with people like you all the time. Just because you happen to fall down a rabbit hole from time to time or read something that seems to make sense to you doesn't quite make it true. And I say that because if someone sits with you and talks to you about anything you don't disagree with, and I don't care what they're showing you, and I know you, Slim, and I know other people like you refuse to go along and say, well, that's the truth. So just be careful when you take these little things here that you grab off a meme. I'm sorry, not off a meme, but off of a IG reel, and you want to run with it like it's the gospel. You know, people on the other side, such as myself, could sit and argue with you about this all day because we feel like we have facts, just like you feel like you have facts. But I think your facts are a little more nut based than anything else.
I look, I don't want to turn this into a conspiracy debate, but
Oh no, you
when
go
you
ahead because
take
that's what Slim's here for. So go ahead.
no, I'm just going to say that no matter what you believe about how 9/11 happened, you can't take everything the US government said was the reason behind it and accept that as complete truth because we know for a fact that that's not the truth. So anybody who says, "Oh, it was some guy in a cave, halfway across the world who had a grudge after," if you just go down the bullet points of Osama bin Laden and the mysterious disappearance of what was it, $1.2 trillion. There's something there. They all the stock that got sold in airlines right before this happened. It, there are questions that can be asked legitimately and that the government won't answer. They'll just say you're crazy. They'll discredit you and make people think you're some tinfoil hat person. When in reality, it's just like it's a legitimate question that why won't you answer? So I
I,
know for a fact you can't knock a building down with an airplane, but that's neither here nor there.
just before before you dig this trench with Slim, just understand that the man typed in here, the government let Pearl Harbor happen too. So we knew that Japan was coming. So just know who you digging this trench with, bro.
Well, I'm not putting it past the United States to be on some fuckery. That's all I'm saying. Look at the history of this country. You trying to tell me the government has always been on the up and up, and that all of a sudden it didn't know? We're supposed to be the greatest in the world. When did that stop?
It's never stopped. Dana says Pearl Harbor was an attack on a military base during war. This was on our territory and our civilians. Excellent point, Dana. Lee says we just survived Y2K. Now, Lee, thank you for that little bit because that was some shit right there that I laughed at. Because who had it? I think Steve Harvey had the bit. I'm like, you motherfuckers ran out and got water and got all the supplies, and when 12 o'clock hit, it was all
I
good.
was actually on the internet when Y2K hit our time zone, and nothing happened. No glitches, no nothing. I was on American Online. Remember that? You've got mail.
I do remember that. I remember dial up, man. I remember how slow those computer games we used to fucking have to be. The graphics was fucking awful. Charles Williams Slim says, laugh my black ass off, no cognitive dissonance here, and no memes teaching me. I just plain and simple don't trust the government. LOL, some of this stuff is unclassified info now. Slim, let me tell you something. For a person who doesn't trust the government, you shouldn't be taking some of that money. Wait,
Well,
I'm
to be
waiting for you.
to be fair, it's our money. So
Nah, no. Slim needs to sell the house, get rid of the hot tub, go off and live in the woods in a cave someplace, eating eating ramen. If you don't trust the government, people who don't trust the government, you can't find them. Slim be on this show. Slim be all over social media. Slim is on everything.
so
You,
that's a little extreme. Can you not disagree on certain things and
he said
agree
he
on
doesn't.
others?
You can. But he said, I quote, simple. I just plain and simple don't trust the government.
What's wrong with that?
Don't
What's
no. No,
I
them
don't
people.
trust them. I don't trust them either. I don't trust them
Well,
when they tell me that
y'all
when
be.
I give them $20 for them to run for office, that they're going to use that
That's
money
not the same.
for the benefit of my well being. That's a crock of
Then I,
shit. That's a lie right there.
then you need to stay in Slim's cave when you come to Arizona next time. Y'all need to be cave
Look, man.
mates
Hey,
for a couple days. All right. Well, thank you guys for letting me be emotional on this day. Thank you, Dion, for bringing it up, even though I told you I don't like to talk about it. This motherfucker went right to it. This data says, why does he have to sell his hot tub out of everything? Because he ain't getting any electricity out in that cave, Data. That's why.
was you sitting in that hot tub and a tomato hit your chest like Deuce Bigelow?
Let me tell you something about my brother Slim. I ain't never sitting in that hot tub. So you got the,
Said it can't get hot enough to burn away what's been going
oh,
on in there.
you ain't got to worry about that. All right. Di, you want to go ahead and introduce our topic, our first topic, official topic?
Well, today's show's kind of loaded. I've been seeing bits and pieces. I'm a huge fan of Mila Kunis. I used to watch that '70s show. Ashton Kutcher and Danny Masterson, Mila Kunis were characters or
Laura,
actors.
don't forget Laura. Well, go
I don't
ahead.
remember her. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember her name. What's her name?
Laura. I think it was Laura Prepon or something like that, something along those
Okay,
lines. Yeah,
all all of it was a good show, but obviously the news came out over the weekend that Danny Masterson got 30 years to life for the crime of RAPE. I don't want to say it for the algorithm, but Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis came out and you know they wrote a letter to the judge asking for leniency, and because they were character witnesses to who this guy was, and so there was a huge debate on Twitter. Where people were saying, they're advocates for people who were trafficked, and for them to turn around and be, saying all these nice and wonderful things about a guy who was literally doing what traffickers do was very hypocritical. And so I kind of wanted to ask you your thoughts on it, get our master debaters' thoughts on it, because for me, he's point blank guilty, and 30 years is not long enough. I hope he spends the rest of his life in jail for what he did,
he's
because
47. That's a long time.
he could get double life, and I'd still be like, don't let him out till the next one. So it's one of those things where when you're in a position of power, like he was, and to take advantage of people and to abuse people in that manner is one of the most detestable things. And for me personally, I cannot stand people who abuse other people, especially when they have power over them. I think to me is the most disgusting thing that you could do. And for Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis to not see how what they did affected the victims of Danny Masterson, to me was just is one of the more confusing things. Like, you guys have been doing all this work for trafficked people, and then to in the same breath turn around and be like, oh, but he's not.
Yeah, but I think that that's your friend. And you feel like you've known him, and they've known him for a long time, a lot of years, grew up together in a way. I think you want to see the best of that person, right or
Uh,
wrong.
I'm not disputing that, but when they're convicted in a court of law, and there's mountains of evidence that this man did do this, whether he's your friend or you don't, it discredits all the work that you've been doing, is what I'm saying. It makes you look stupid
I, and I
because
and I'm
he's
not just.
found guilty. You can't tell me he's a good person when he's found guilty of what they convicted him of doing, what they accused him of doing. So to me, that undercuts any argument. No matter how many years you spent with them, you can know somebody for 40, 50 years and not know that behind
Are
closed
they?
doors.
Here's my question for you, because I know this came up over the last couple of days. Are they members of the Church of Scientology as well? Do we know?
I'm not sure that they are. I don't want
Because
to say one way or the
that
other.
could be a part of it as well. I know that's something that came out. I know Leah Remini's been making the rounds because she's completely against the Church of Scientology. But I know there were some parts of that where they were saying the church was trying to quiet these women because I guess there's some rule within that church. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's some rule that one member of that church cannot take another member of the church. I don't know why I'm fumbling over these words. You cannot go to the police and say this member committed a crime. That is against that's against the rules of the Church of Scientology. And so, and
That's my first time hearing it. That's why I'm laughing because
I
this is the
no, I just
dumbest
heard it
thing.
today. I just heard it today. And so I thought that was absolutely fascinating. But I also thought that, lends the church to a lot of the different things that they say about that fucking crazy place. The stories you hear about Tom Cruise getting slave labor, basically, because they make the underlings, the lower level members of the church, clean his house, clean his cars, excuse me, do things for him around his house and things like that, and not get paid at all while they're working slave wage hours, if you will. So that's why I asked if they were members. Did you find anything that said they were by chance?
I did not, but I mean, clearly it's a cult, and anybody, if I, it's one of those things where, as someone who's a logical human being, like for whatever reason, I cannot wrap my head around people who hear that and go, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'm gonna spend my time and energy invested in this idea of if someone that I go to church with does something to me that I can't go to the police, how does that register in a logical person's brain to be like, yeah, that's a good idea? Like, slow clap for the man who created the cult, because how do you trick people into to falling for something so asinine and stupid
Well,
is beyond me.
it's not a hard leap in a lot of different ways because they've taken some things from some other religions that have been, long standing parts of it. So, the Catholic Church, I found it fascinating that you would get, and not to offend anyone who's Catholic, but I guess any religion you can pick at things. But with the Catholic Church, I always found it fascinating that you would actually get into this booth and just cut yourself open and tell all your secrets and all your sins to another human being on the other side of this wall over here. And then they have all your information to do whatever they do. But the Church of Scientology has taken that to another level because they take you in and they hook you up to all these things, and then they ask you questions, and you're just supposed to spill your guts, and they record it. They have hours and hours and hours of tapes of people's deepest, darkest secrets, which they say is one of the ways they keep Tom Cruise, John
Mm-hmm.
Travolta, others of that ilk in check because they have all these recordings on them. So I'm not surprised, and I believe that Danny Masterson was a high-ranking member, and I think that was part of how he was able to get away with the raping, as I was understanding it today, was because the Church of Scientology does have that rule in place that you cannot go to the police to say someone else committed a crime against you.
Again, how people fall for that type of brainwashing is fascinating to me. I mean, I when you hear an idea for the first time that is as awful as that, to where if somebody is in a group who does something to you and you're in the same group, you can't do anything about it. I immediately, my first thought is, I don't want to be a part of that group anymore. That doesn't sound like a good idea to me. So it's one of those things where, like, how do you go to that? It's your first day in Scientology, and they start listing the rules, and they get to that one, and you're like, all right, thanks for this little seminar. I'll holla at y'all later. Like, how do you go from hearing that to, oh, let me tell you everything about myself that you can record and use against me whenever you want? And then I have to do all these little weird things like cleaning people's houses and cars and all this other crap. What does any of that have to do with religion, and that's what I was talking about earlier when I talk about people who just abuse their power. Because if you're on the top level of that, and I've watched so many documentaries of cults where the people at the top level of a cult just abuse the fuck out of people who are hoping for a community and looking for a place to belong.
Yeah.
And I hate how the human nature is to take advantage of people who want to give you power over them and you hurt them with it. That to me is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and something I don't think to this world crumbles, will we ever see the last of it? So there are plenty of people. I say all the time there are plenty of people who are just waiting to be taken advantage of, and that's because the majority of the people breathing and walking this planet are just waiting to be led. There's a very small number that are who want to be leaders, who want to be out front, and there's an even smaller group of those who want to do it because they honestly want to do something kind from their heart. And so I don't think we'll ever stop seeing things like this. Churches popping up, people willing to run to them. I mean, we've had people fly off and go live down in South America someplace and then end up drinking Kool-Aid and committing suicide because this man was afraid that he was about to lose it all. We had people, David Koresh from that group, fighting off the U.S. government and who, speaking of conspiracy theories, depending on who you believe, set their own fucking building on fire because David Koresh didn't want to lose out on what he had. And so this is just an ongoing thing. I don't think we'll ever not see it, but I am fascinated by this Danny Masterson thing because it's not very often that someone who has fame and money can't seem to get himself. I say if this case comes up to court, actual court, maybe 10 years earlier, he gets away with it. He gets away with it. Because I want to say that 10 years early, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it needs to be a little further out. But I think 10 years earlier, he beats the Bill Cosby stuff. He beats the, what was the super producer out of Hollywood who's in prison now?
Weinstein.
Weinstein, he beats all of those different things. Epstein, if he's first, I think he beats it. I think all that stuff doesn't help him. The Me Too moments as well. I think if you're coming behind any of that, your ass is fucking grass.
Well, I mean, but he's guilty, so I don't think he beats it.
I think he
For the
does.
simple
I do
for
too.
the simple fact that he is guilty of the crimes that he committed, and there's
Guil-
evidence,
yeah, but
and they
guilty people
proved it.
get beat stuff all the time, though, Dion.
Yes and no. So I agree that there are people who are guilty who get off scot free. Yes, I agree, but I don't think with the evidence they had against him that he beats it, regardless of the time
Okay.
period.
Okay.
This is just my personal opinion.
Okay.
But I
What do you
do agree.
what do you
But
guys
I
think though? What do you guys think? Let us know in the chat. If you guys let us know, do you agree with me or Dion? Go ahead, Dion. Sorry.
I do agree with you that the fact that the time period of Cosby and Weinstein and Epstein definitely probably swayed public opinion and jurors' opinion because there's a certain level of bias that you cannot get rid of depending on whatever case you're dealing with. I mean, that's why they pick a random selection of jurors is they try to mitigate the bias as best as possible. But if when you're dealing with someone who's in the public eye, Trump, for example, he's not going to get a fair trial wherever he goes because you either like him, you hate him. There's a very, very, very small population of people in this country who have zero opinion about him whatsoever. And the fact that they would be able to narrow it down to 12 or 13 people and get those people to serve in a trial is so minuscule that it's very improbable.
I think you could almost say almost no one could get a free trial in this country, depending on what you did.
Fair trial.
I'm sorry, fair trial, depending on what you did. I think if your crime was murder or rape, something along those lines, you have a far less chance of getting a fair trial. I think, depending on that charge, and I think the more extreme, the less likely. Going back to what I was saying with the Danny Masterson, and this is part of the reason why I said it, because now we have so many different things on the forefronts of people's minds when it comes to Hollywood and it comes to the taking advantage of women. The things that have been in front of people's minds with the Church of Scientology, going back Leah Remini again has been at the forefront of that with her television show on A&E and all the interviews she was doing even before today.
Mhm.
So, it is a weird thing. That's why you see so many people take a plea bargain because well, I'm going to entrust my life. If unless they're talking about putting you away for a long time, I'm going to entrust my life to 12 fucking people sitting here who I don't know what they heard and how they digested it and what they remember and what they don't remember. If you can help it, tell to the no. But I just think too much of this stuff is at the front. When it comes to Trump, I agree with you, but we're right back there. I just don't think he's the only person. He's the only person. He's unique to it because everybody knows him from Mars to this fucking planet. I think he's unique in that way, and you either love him or you hate him. I don't think there's any in between. But I think even for the average American citizen, depending on your crime, and I'm talking about you had to commit some real crime to have to go to trial, you could be hard pressed to get your own self a fair trial in terms of what we perceive to be a fair trial.
See, and I think that's what's important is how we document the word fair according to trial, because the process is never the same. Whereas if you're poor, you don't get a fair trial because you can't afford a fair trial. Where if you're rich, you get a fairer trial because you can afford to hire the lawyers to file all the motions and
Right.
change a venue and that type of thing to where you can get the system to work for you, whereas the average person doesn't have the system working for them. That's why they get offered plea deals and they take them because, oh, you got a 45% chance if we go to court that you might lose. Well, that's a 65% chance that you win, or not 65. Is that right? I don't do math in my
55,
head.
55.
55. But you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what they offer you is, hey, this scenario is better than the absolute worst case scenario over here. And I'll never forget Khalid Browder, that story where he sat in Rikers Island for 2 years over stealing a laptop that he never stole. They took him to the police station and said, "Oh, yeah, we just want to ask you some questions and you can go home." And he never went home for 2.5 years and ended up killing himself, all because of how the justice system is set up, where they tried to get him to admit to something he didn't do, and he fought him tooth and nail, and then he was punished for that. So a lot of this, kind of boils down to how our justice system is set up versus what we allow. Um, you know, Reform is definitely needed. But to go back to Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, I get that they work with this guy and they were friends, but Sydney, if I committed a crime and then heaven forbid I commit a crime and I get found guilty, I don't want you to burn your reputation on my behalf
Yeah.
for something that I did that you were not involved in. You don't have to come out and speak and tell people how great of a person that you thought I was when the evidence shows the contrary, because it's not going to do me any favors. I've already gotten my time, right? So whatever you say to me behind closed doors is
But he hadn't
a-okay.
gotten, but he hadn't gotten it yet. He hadn't gotten it yet when they wrote it. So they were trying
True,
to, yeah, so they were trying to get him
but
a
at
lighter
but at
sentence.
but at the same time, he was found guilty. So it's one of those things where, look, you don't. As a friend, as a brother, I don't want you risking your neck. I don't want you taking that 45% chance or that
Well,
55% chance on my behalf. Just let me deal with it, and whatever you guys say behind closed doors. Because to me, that's what real friendship is. It's like, yo, look, I fucked up. It's my bad. I'm trying to keep you as clean as possible, and because at the end of the day, any self-respecting person, you got to own up to the shit you do, and it's one of those things where it's a terrible look for them,
well,
especially considering all the work that they do for trafficked people.
let me tell you something. If I get picked up on all these parking tickets and they give me the time I think they gonna give me, you better come out and say something. You better be doing all kind of stuff. All
Oh, I'm
right.
gonna say something. I'm like, yeah, I told him not to park there.
No, no. You see,
I told him not to park. I
you
said, you
going
see that
to,
sign right there?
you going the wrong way. You went the wrong way. I'm not saying that they were right for what they did. I'm with you. I do not like when people take advantage of their power. I don't. Obviously, RAPE. I'm completely against that. But what I will give them is the grace of the fact that they are human beings, and this is your friend, and your longtime friend, and you want to do what you can to help him, and maybe you're not believing what you're hearing or what you're seeing, or maybe you didn't go to court. I have no idea even if they went and sat in the courtroom. I have no idea what they did in terms of that. But I can completely understand, just like if you did do something. I hear what you're saying, but I would be hard pressed as a longtime brother of yours to not want to protect you if I could in some way, shape, or form. Get egg on your face later on down the road, maybe, but you're hard pressed not to do it.
And this is why I said what I said. Whereas you wanting to protect me ends up hurting you. It's my job to protect you from that, and that's what I'm saying. It's just like, Sydney, if I did something and I know I did it and I know they got me, I'm gonna tell you behind closed doors. Look, man, I appreciate you being willing to ride for me, but don't. What you say to me behind closed doors is cool. I get it. I appreciate that. But in the public eye, it's not. It's a losing battle. And at the end of the day, as much as you want to protect me, as someone who did the thing, I'm supposed to protect you
I
from
agree
the
with
thing
that.
that I did. Right.
I agree with
So
that. I agree with that.
it's one of those situations where I get why they did what they did for their friend. I understand that, but at the same time, it's like y'all got to know better.
But don't forget about this part. You're talking about what you would do if you're that guy accused of that crime. You don't have that in you to pull anybody aside and say, "Don't do this for me." You are a predator, and you'll take advantage of whoever, however, whenever, whether it be some underling in the Church of Scientology or your friends who are high profile. If you think they can get you off, I don't.
I agree. He is a low character individual, but for me, that's to me that's the most important thing about being alive is your character. It's like being a truly being a good person, not just talking about it or exist. It's like not taking advantage of people, not screwing people over. To me, is so important. Like I feel sick when I even get the opportunity to screw somebody over. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Now, have I bumped people from an open mic? Absolutely, I have. Will I do it in the future? Absolutely, I will.
Yeah,
Why?
why not?
Because I'm better than them, and they don't deserve
I,
the stage time.
I earned it.
Exactly, I
I
earned it.
earned it.
But in the grand scheme of things, I don't want to take anybody's opportunity. I don't want to. I, just the idea of having power over people and abusing that is repulsive to me, to my literal core.
Yeah, yeah,
Where
yeah.
I can't think of anything worse than someone offering up everything they have to you, you taking it from them, and then treating them like shit. To
Yep.
me, that is it's just the most bizarre concept I could ever think of.
I want to get to some comments here. Thank you guys for rocking with us. I'm sorry we took a little bit more time before getting your comments, but we're going to try to get you in now. Facebook user says, "Hey guys, I was at home getting ready for an appointment with my mom, probation. I was 13. All right, a little juvenile
That's
delinquent back in the day.
Jessica Taylor.
What's up, Jessica? Uh, Everything got canceled when the second plane hit. My mom said this is a terrorist attack, and that was the first time I heard that term. Very disappointed with Bush's reaction. You know what? You took me back there as well. Yes, if I remember correctly, my man was just reading at the school, reading to students, and got the whisper in his ear, and never really lifted a muscle to do anything or move to go anywhere to handle anything at all. So, uh, the second dumbest thing that he did during all of that was to go and stand on that ship and say that the war was over, we had won, or something along those lines. So, uh, yeah, not the smartest spoon in the drawer. Facebook use says
There's no smart spoons in the drawer. You got a new Apple spoon over there?
I meant to say sharpest spoons. What I meant to say,
Yeah,
but I see here is this saying Topher didn't say shit. He's enjoying his life. LOL. Is that what that's supposed to
yeah,
be?
yeah. The Eric uh, on the show, Eric.
Oh, Eric. Oh, okay. Topher
His
Grace.
name. Yeah,
Topher Grace. Okay, yeah. The H threw me off there. The TH threw me off. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, he ain't said shit. He kept it quiet. Maybe he never liked him. Maybe he set Danny up. Everybody think of that? Danny was always picking on Fez, or what was that character's name on the show?
Fez. Yeah,
Maybe they set him up, get his ass back. Coach for MS. Why does it seem like the last couple of guys who got busted for something like this their characters on TV show, they were kind of douchebags, little creepy, little sleazy douchebags.
It's easy to get into character when that's who you are as a person.
Meaning August O'Neill's is already on my boys. His coach for MSU is a setup. We will be getting that. August, I hope you're still with us. Stay with us. We will be getting to that soon. Dana says they are one of the biggest proponents for human trafficking, are widely publicized for it. It's really sad that they ask for any special privilege. It's disgusting and bizarre. And I think that's where you were coming from. Lee says they posted apologies and claimed his family reached out and asked them to do so. So that's kind of where it came from. Like I said, they probably didn't have enough information, didn't even sit in the courtroom.
It's one of those things where you got to say no. No, I'm not doing that because it just because of all the other work that you're doing. Like when lines get crossed, you have to put a line in the sand. Like Danny, you did this, bro, and now you're asking me to come out and ask for leniency when where was the leniency for what you did to those people?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you can't you see what I'm saying? It's like you got to take accountability for what you did. And at the end of the day, to ask other people to stick their neck out for you after you've done that thing,
Yeah.
nah, man, that is shit.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Wade says some people are just sheep. Bruce says that whole church is fucked up. Facebook user says, oh, hey. Okay. Oh, hey. Oh, hey.
That's Shandis.
Okay. What's up, Shandis? Is she actually any of these behind that, Dion, at all? In the comments that came after?
No, after her is Roxy, and then her.
If you would give a read of those, because all I'm going to see is
Okay,
Facebook user.
so Roxy says not to excuse it, but part of me wonders if Mila has been conditioned to normalize certain behaviors. She was so young when she was exposed to this. Then Shandis says the culty religions will always protect their own at all costs. Jessica says, I feel like Mila and Danny were just co-workers, not best friends. Then Shanda says, but why offer a character witness statement to Jessica's comment? I sure as fuck wouldn't put my neck out to protect someone who's simply my co-worker.
Good points from both you ladies. Thank you guys for watching. Roxy, appreciate you rocking every week. Candace, you have been missed, so thank you for jumping in with us. Great points being made there. I wouldn't stick my neck out either. I maybe this is more possibly me again guessing. I don't know any of these people. An Ashton to Danny thing possibly, or who knows? I hear Mila's very nice. She wasn't my favorite on the show, and she was very young. I think she was the youngest one. I think she lied about her age to get on the show. I think she was 14, while everyone else was 17, 18, 19 years old, something along those lines. So I don't know how she got mixed up in it. I don't know the relationship between she and Ashton, but you make a great point, Shandis. If you're a coworker, I can't think of one coworker I've ever had that's going away to do any time. And I say, hey, let me write you a character witness statement to help you out. I can't do that for you, bro.
Excuse me. Hello. Hello. I'm sitting right here. We live, and he
We
looked me in the face.
we are
I
not
don't know anybody. I don't know
we are
anybody that
not
I've ever
coworkers.
worked with.
You are not coworkers, motherfucker. I would not want to punch you in the face if you went and took my lunch out the cafeteria refrigerator, right?
Oh, that's good to know.
Those are the coworkers. Everybody know what I'm talking about. The motherfuckers who go and eat your lunch and look at you like they don't know who took your shit and
So,
be talking
ooh,
to you.
Cindy had wings today. Lemon pepper.
You walk sniffing people's lips.
You know what I do? You know what I do? I just bite one wing and put it back.
Come on, hello. I mean, look at me right in the face. All
Let's
right.
see. Roxy says, even if I didn't experience that side of someone, I will separate myself from people that don't align with my morals and ethics. You're just not my people. I have a hard time giving people a job reference, much less a character letter for sentencing, keyword sentencing post conviction, and a RAPE trial. So, yeah, that's a really good point, Roxy.
I love the fact that she said giving a character. I'm sorry, giving. Yeah, what did she say? I would separate myself from people. You're just not my people. I have a hard time giving people job. Yeah, I'm with the job reference thing because I got family members my entire life I would never hire. They would always think, yo, can you, would you? I'd come up with some excuse because there's absolutely no way. I'm not even letting you get in here to take the drug test. There's no way I'm letting you get close to getting in this building and being asked to leave and make me look bad. So I'm with Roxy there. Bree Geiger says Black Claw, period. Nice, Bree. Facebook user says, wasn't another cast member accused of grooming? I can't remember his name, but he dated very young women.
Jessica Taylor.
I don't remember anyone else being in trouble out of that cast, to be honest with you. Everyone else, I think, has been pretty okay, professionally and personally. Topher and Laura and the parents.
Faz, Vilder,
Yeah,
Valderrama.
Yeah, he's on a TV show, a hit show now on CBS, Paramount. Yeah, I can't think of anyone else. If you can remember the name, let us know. Bruce says, I agree that he beats the charges in a different time. Yeah, Bruce, I just really believe that he would beat it. He had the money to get a good lawyer. But when you up against it, unless you got that OJ Simpson luck, especially these days, you off and gone. I mean, hell, OJ was enough to make people stop making a truck for 30 years. Mary
Jessica says Fez. So
Fez.
I think I remember hearing something about that, but
Okay, okay. I didn't hear anything about that. Okay. Well, I'll have to look that up later. That's interesting. Mary Ballard says, I'm surprised he didn't beat it. I'm not. I'm not. You, I, I mean, we'll get to it. I don't want to go down. I just want to make sure we touch on everybody else's first here. Charles says, since you brought up Cosby, everyone famous or almost everyone famous from back in the day or during the day of sex, drugs, and rock and roll should be brought to justice. Then and not just select folks that the industry is upset with or tired or don't like. Well, I would say this, Slim. I don't. You'd probably say the same thing with the Danny Masterson thing. I think a lot of people, especially if you've been in the industry for a long time, you've made a lot of money for yourself and for the industry. I think you sometimes feel like you're untouchable. And we're gonna go to Bill Cosby. I have my own feelings about that. But when you're Bill Cosby, you're a living legend. You can go any place, anytime, get on a stage. I mean, you're America's dad at one point. You're the Jello pudding pop dude. You had the most popular TV show for black and white people that some people have ever known. I think you carry a certain level, and when you're coming up, and this isn't my word because I didn't come up during this time, but when you're coming up in a time where men and women who came up during that time were saying these were the rules, these are the things that were done, men and women were playing by them. I don't think people ever expect their times to change or end. I think when you're going through it and you're living life and you're doing your thing, and I think it's human nature, and if you're doing what Bill and a lot of other guys were doing, and I listened to an interview recently that kind of turned my stomach a little bit because Bill and Larry King together are talking about slipping quaaludes to women, and they're laughing about it on the Larry King show while Larry is interviewing Bill Cosby. So Bill wasn't alone. He wasn't the only guy doing it. If you listen to some women who say that they knew that they were doing it, it was just kind of how things went. My point is, I don't think people ever think times are going to change. I think this is accepted now, and this will always be accepted, and this is just the way the world works
I,
until
I
they don't.
I was gonna say I disagree that this is always how it's gonna be. You can see progression as you look back then versus now. Danny Masterson being a prime example of what you spoke about, of how had it happened before, chances are a lot higher that he gets away with it. But we're at this point in time now where young people have a reckoning when it comes to the behavior of past generations, and we look back and say this is wrong, this is wrong, you shouldn't do this, you should be more accepting, you should be more open, you shouldn't be abusing your power, you shouldn't just have to take it, which is kind of what leads into our next topic of what you should put up with versus what you shouldn't put up with in order to have the career that you want to have. There's certain give and takes that we all participate in society that if all things were even, most people would not put up with. But for the simple fact that, oh, I have to jump through this hoop in order to get what I want career wise, it's one of those situations.
And the thing is, and no one ever says this, is men and women. There are women who are predators as well, who have
Absolutely.
who have made males do things as well. Women are predators after comedy shows. Some of the fucking worst. So it's on both sides. And when I say I agree with you, times do change. But I think when you're in the midst of it and you're on top and you're the one receiving or the one taking, you think this is going to be. I don't think you're thinking, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, there's going to be a reckoning and I may have to be brought to justice. I don't think anyone ever thinks of that
And I
unless you're a
think
serial killer of some sort out here driving around in a van.
and I think that's the perfect example of why the character quality is so low when it comes to the entertainment industry, because people don't think about 30 years from now what my behavior. Oh, well, everybody's doing it, so I'm no different than everybody else. And then
Right.
30 years rolls around, and boom, these people come out of the woodwork and say you did X, Y, and Z, and then you're caught. They're like, but that's just what we did, and it's like, okay, everybody was doing it, but that never excuses the behavior. So granted, yes, that is the time that you grew up in, but you're still accountable for what you were doing in that time period, because not everybody was doing that. There are some people, whether it be the majority or
Yep.
the
Yep.
minority, who
Yep.
weren't involved in that behavior. And then you look back and say, well, if they were able to not go through X, Y, and Z, why were you making people go through X, Y, and Z,
Yep.
especially if you had the power over those people, which to me is the crux of this whole argument, is having power over people and just abusing it in such a manner that it ruins people's lives. It's so disgusting from a character standpoint. There are all kinds of situations and scenarios where you're in charge of something and what you say is law. I get that. But I don't understand, just me personally, how people who can be in that seat and have no problem whatsoever about screwing somebody over and ruining their life and not think twice about it, like it's taking out the trash for somebody to come pick up, and then you're back at it the next week when it's trash day. To me, that is it's it's mind-boggling that people are just okay with fucking people over that way.
And
Because I,
not
as a person, I can't fathom that.
and let's not forget about the people who helped that along. When Bill was doing what he was accused of, what Larry, I don't know if Larry was doing or not, but he was laughing it off like maybe he. I mean, he knew a lot about it in that little snippet of the interview. So I don't know what Larry was or wasn't doing, but when those stars were doing what they were doing, when stars are doing what they're doing now, executives are doing what they're doing. You and I hear the stories about what some people do to make it. So
Mm-hmm.
in LA, in Hollywood. So there are other people who are on the periphery who know these things are happening and just look the other way too. Whether it be something that's done to child actors so they can get to that next role or get this role, and parents look the other way, or other executives look the other way, talent scouts look the other way. So you're hard pressed to change any of it, to get your arms around any of it, because for every Harvey Weinstein that has gotten put into prison and who's never going to see the light of day, God only knows the number of them that are still walking around the streets in LA, still doing the exact same thing every single
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Let's see here. Lee Jones says, "Got to understand that all the evidence in the world can be biased to a person's opinion of a person close to them." Good point there, Lee. Sean Jones Jr. What's up, Sean? Thank you for jumping in. Says Topher didn't say shit. He was minding his own business. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And then he laughed at Apple Spoon. So he told me so. Facebook user says accountability. Absolutely.
That was Shandis.
Shandis. And she says, I missed you guys too. Kids Sports is my only, I'm assuming your only way out. I miss you guys too.
No,
Kids Sports is okay, in the evening is my whole identity these days. I'm not mad at you. I got a lot of friends with kids. I don't see them often during certain times of the year, so I get it. Say, Bruce says, I was a coworker. And you heard what I said, Bruce. Well, Facebook user says, Wilmer dated Demi Lovato Bedford. She was 18, 12-year difference.
Shandis said that.
Oh, Shandis, okay. Shandis, too young to be dating.
He, she says Vilmer dated Demi Lovato Bedford before she
Oh,
was
before.
18.
Okay, yeah, then I'm out.
Yeah,
See, Charles says exactly everyone that facilitated these actions. And then I'm not sure if this is Shandis again, but says, I have conversations with my oldest sons of what expectations are and what is acceptable and unacceptable. These conversations can sometimes be uncomfortable, but they're necessary. Also, they watch you lead by example.
that was Roxy.
Roxy, I would say to this, to anyone with kids out there, and my mom and I've had this conversation, you can only give them what you know to be right if you're a good parent. But once you send them out there, they got to make fucking decisions on their own. They're being, so many kids are being raised not just by their parents, they're being raised by friends, by video games, by music, by whatever. So, my mother says all the time she feels very blessed to have 4 kids that she sent out to into the world, and we're all okay. And she will freely say that's by the grace of God, because you can't control anything once they're out of your hands. But you can
It's
do what you're doing. I love that you're doing that, because too many parents don't even do that, though, Roxy.
it's one of those things where my dad passed away, but some of the conversations I had with him before he left was, I asked him what did he think about, you know, the job that he did as a parent, and he said, "You can't tell me I didn't win. None of my kids ever got in trouble." And so, whatever your baseline is for what you consider to be good, if that works for you, that works for you. My dad did. None of us, none of us are locked up. None of us have, hurt anyone, taken anyone's lives. We're not criminals. So, in his eyes, that was a win. We grew up in the '80s and early '90s for my youngest brother. So it was one of those things where it would have been easy for one of us to get off into drugs or gangs or crime or whatever. And the fact that he instilled in us the fear of our dad. I mean, that would, to me, would be the only determining factor for why I didn't want to do any of those things. Because regardless of what I did outside of the house, I knew if I came home and something happened that he didn't like, I would have to deal with him, and I was never going to win that battle as a child.
I remember that was a huge thing for me. There was a couple of things that were huge. I never wanted my mother to have to tell people that her oldest child was in prison. That was always a thing for me, because, growing up, how we grew up, there were so many people who did. The other thing, I wanted to try to set the best example I could for my younger siblings. I had 3 younger siblings. I wanted to do that. But I will say I was a kid. And there were times I was hanging out with older cousins who were on the other side of the line. And and sometimes you want to be accepted, because I'm the kid who grew up carrying a briefcase, getting straight A's, and so on and so forth. I'm the exact opposite of what they were doing. And sometimes, man, those guys are cool, man. They just want to
Mm-hmm.
just whatever. And this is to my point, Roxy, that I was making before. My mother did everything she could to put everything into me. Made sure, my grandmother made sure she picked us up every Sunday for church, and instill that side. But still, they're that part of you. And what I just said the other day to someone else, and I'll say to this day, one of my greatest blessings were those same cousins who were criminals in one way or the other, because they said, you will absolutely not be doing any of this shit over here. If I even catch you doing any of this, if I catch you smoking or drink, I'm gonna kick your ass. So
Accountability.
it it takes more than just your parents sending. There is a lot of blessings. There's got to be a lot of luck out there. And to your point, Dion, I think you made earlier, there's got to be something in that kid as well that says, I don't want to take advantage. I don't want to commit that type of crime. I don't want to do. And unfortunately, sometimes that kid is not born with that in here or here, however you think it happens. They're walking out here amongst us every day with some of the greatest upbringings that you could ever think of.
Agreed.
Roxy says that's true. I can't control the future, but if I hold them accountable, now that expectation is set. 100 agree with you. 100% agree with you, because I tell young people, siblings, cousins, when they were coming up, look, you can take it or you cannot take the advice I'm giving. You can take the lessons that I'm trying to teach you or not take it. But what you won't ever do is come back to me and say, I didn't tell you. Because I'm going to tell you a goddamn lie.
Mm-hmm.
And listening to, damn it, the comedian, damn it, I was just talking about, I think I like him a little more than you do. He's got the special I was talking about. You need to watch Domino Effect on YouTube. He was
Ali Sadiq.
Ali. Ali Sadiq.
I like Ali Sadiq.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe someone else who said they didn't like him. Ali says it in an interview, because Ali did a lot of time. And they were asking him, well, what about those guys who were in prison and they maybe didn't have someone there to watch out for him or to teach him? And he said, let me tell you something. You'll never find one man who's in prison who will tell you nobody told him. He said, all we do is sit around and talk about, man, my aunt told me, my uncle told me, I should have listened, my teacher told me. He said, somebody has already told all of us. We made the decision not to listen. The guy who was never told does not exist in prison.
It, it's one of those things. A hard head makes a soft ass. You
Soft
know
ass.
better, but it's if you're willing to take that risk. Part of what kept me out of trouble is the power of disappointing my parents.
Yeah,
When your parent instills in you how much disappointment hurts them, and that
yeah.
resonates with you, outside of a kid being a psychopath at an early age, I don't know anyone who you're looking up to the people that raised you and that you love, and they tell you you disappoint me, how much that hurts. I don't know of any child who can hear their parents say I'm disappointed in you and it have no effect on them whatsoever. And if there is a kid out there like that, then I don't think there's anything you can do, because if you're already at that age where disappointment, when there's nothing that affects you in that regard, Lord help you, because Jesus Christ, I will never forget the day we stole candy out of our teacher's candy jar, and I had to go through that whole process of admitting it to the teacher and having her tell me she was disappointed, and the tears in her eyes, how much that hurt me to make her cry because she was somebody I cared about. But then having to go home and tell my parents what happened, and not only getting the spanking and the punishment, but after that hearing, this is why I'm disappointed in you, because you know better. And like having that reality check hit you is one of those things I think is what drives my character today, is why I don't like taking advantage of people. Because in that moment, seeing people hurt like that is just it's tragic. It's sad, and it's not something I ever want to experience again.
Well, I know how to keep you from eating my last piece of chicken when you hear it now. Oh,
I
dear.
told you, I'm just biting it and putting it back.
It's very, very disappointed, Dion.
I'm like, I'm disappointed in that chicken. It was dry.
It's been there for a couple of days. Hey guys, thank you for rocking with us. We're going to hit our last topic here, our second and last topic. Get in and we're going to get out, because I don't think there's a whole lot that needs to be said. But we're going to get in and get out on it. And I know August may be waiting for this. I know Bruce, if he's still there, he's waiting for this. Slim may be waiting for it as well. Anybody who knows me, who likes to see me in pain, is waiting for me to talk about this. My beloved Michigan State Spartans off to, I want to say, to a 2-0 start. Team is looking good. I was very happy to have the coach, Mel Tucker. He came on board 4 years ago, turned the team around like that. What people don't know is Michigan State has a lot of money, a lot of billionaires, and they coughed up the money. And Mel Tucker, man, they gave him a contract, $9 million a year, making more money than any other head coach at the time, and it was Michigan State who did it. Well, little did any of us know that Mel Tucker was under a Title IX investigation. And he's under a Title IX, fuck you, Bruce, with your go OSU, you red bastard. And he's under investigation for sexual harassment of a woman who has previously been raped, I believe, or yes, raped by 4 football players 20 years ago. The story, you can read it in USA Today. I sent it to Dion. I meant to send it to you all. I completely forgot, so forgive me. We'll run through it really quick, the story, and give our takes on it. I know what I want to say, but I'm going to let Dion go first, sir. And we want to hear from you guys, too, if you have anything. Not you,
when when
Bruce.
I when I read the story, the first thing that popped out to me was the comparisons to Larry Nassar and what was going on back then, as far as the U.S. gymnastics doctor, and how this university seems to have a problem with this particular situation. I didn't. I had never heard of Mel Tucker before you sent this article to me, because I don't pay attention to college sports at all. I'm not into college football. I could care less about who wins and who loses. To me, it's a big racket. But reading the article, this woman was a survivor of SA, and she was coming into this program to help kind of clean up the image and the culture that was revolving around this university. And her and the head coach, Mel Tucker is his name.
No, Tucker.
Mel Tucker kind of hit it off, and they seem to have good chemistry. And then come to find out that uh, he's married and he's not having a good marriage, and this woman gets involved, and they're talking on the phone at booty call hours. So it just seems really suspicious to me all of a sudden that there's this investigation where she says 8 months ago he jerked off while they were on the phone. And when I read that, I was like, wait, what? If you're a survivor of that trauma, and to me, just this is just my personal opinion, and everybody's different, I get that. But to me, if you're a survivor of that and someone does something to you along that line, you don't continue the conversation, you don't continue the connection. To me, it's a done deal, because not only are you a survivor of that, but he knows that. And that to me reaches the line of respect that that individual has for me as a person. Like, nothing is more disrespectful than for you to know my trauma and then to re create my trauma on me after I done had multiple conversations with you about it. We're trying to figure out how to clean this up, and then you turn around and pull this thing on me, whether we were flirting or not, whether we were intimate or not. Like, there's a certain level of what the fuck are you doing, that just me personally, I'm like, oh hell no, I'm done with you. I don't care what happens to my career. I don't care what happens. There's just a line in the sand that you don't cross. And it just seems fishy to me that she continued to have somewhat of a relationship with this university for the sake of her career after being an advocate for this very thing that happened 20 years ago is happening all over again. And it's weird to me.
So Dana says you just fucking hang up the goddamn phone. Facebook user, I'm not sure who it is. Is that Roxy? Says absolutely not. As a survivor, is that Roxy or is that someone else?
No,
Candace.
that's Jessica.
Oh, Jessica says absolutely not. As a survivor, those red flags stopped me dead in my tracks before that phone call even happens. I'm with both those ladies. I'm with you. My biggest issue with this, not my biggest, but one of my issues with this is that exactly. This goes back for me with the Louis C.K. thing. The man is masturbating on the phone. Hang up the phone. I think so many, I've heard, and I'm not saying anything I have not heard other women say already. Other women have said this on stage and off and in private conversations. Sometimes women won't say things out front because they don't want to be seen as the enemy to other women, because everybody just wants to go along to get along. I do not believe this happened at all in the way that she is putting this. I believe Mel Tucker on this one. She wanted someone to be her sugar daddy, to cut her a check and keep her on the side. There's no woman out there. Dana, Roxy, Shandace, Mary, you guys all tell me if I'm wrong about this. But as a man, a red-blooded man who's been around the block a couple times, I feel comfortable in saying there is not a
What was
woman.
that voice? I'm sorry. What was that?
That was the voice that you used all around the block. There's
Hey,
not
yo,
a
Rhonda, come outside.
but there's not a woman who means anything good who sits on the phone with a married man for 30 to 40 minutes or a couple times a week when he's married, and there's nothing going on, or she's not attempting to be a part of something to help it along to start become going on. I think this dude, because in the article it says he did what he did, then he went to the background. That was his big mistake, because this broad was expecting to stay on the payroll and you fucked it up. And you went to the background because obviously you never got a pimp class, because you was telling this broad all about your marriage. And she started spreading your business all around town through her assistants, however, and somehow it got back to you. And that's what upset you, because you didn't ask the right proper questions before you started having a little self-love on the phone. My next problem is you a 50-something-year-old man. At what point are you too old for that? When you got $9 million in the bank? Look, girl, I'll fly you down. I'll meet you up somewhere. Or I'll get you an Uber or something. But I mean, what are we doing here, bro? What are we doing here? Then you look in there. My man had sent her cash through Venmo. He had also given her thousands of dollars through her charity that she was running. He had hooked her up with several speaking engagements. And I think she was making 10K for speaking engagements at MSU. Bro, you just don't get the fade to the background or something like that. But my biggest issue out of everything, and I mean this from my heart, as a black man with that type of opportunity, making that kind of money, you can't fuck that up, bro. Because you and I talk about it all the time. What other black coach in professional or college football do you know of before this one who got to be the highest paid player in your industry? At a
Yeah.
school, not at Alabama, not at Tennessee, not at Florida, not at fucking Notre Dame, at Michigan State. I love the school. I love the team. But it's Michigan State. That's a lot of fucking money. And you went and blew it because you had to have with this individual. I'm not the biggest fan of Gilbert Arenas, but I will say one thing. My man say y'all cost too much money. And if I want to do something, I go find me a little lady. We go out, we have a good time, and we call it quits. We good. But you put it all on the line.
I see, and I'm glad you brought Gilbert Arenas up. He's very upfront about what if you donate to his podcast. He's very upfront with the ladies about what he's going to spend the money on. Yeah, and he says, "Hey, if you inbox me, this is what I assume you're inboxing me for, and you know what the deal is. So that at the end of the day, there can't be no, oh, I didn't know. There isn't any, oh, I thought we were just friends. There's none of that. For Mel Tucker to not know his position in this woman's life, whether him jerking off on the phone or not would be a good idea. To me, is the most dumb thing about this entire situation. How do you not know how this woman feels about you one way or the other?
You fake it.
Before you go whipping your dick out, maybe you should figure out whether or not she would like if you had your dick out while she was on the phone. That's just me personally. Like, I don't want to pull my dick out in front of somebody who don't want to see my dick. That's a bad idea. Whether I've got $9 million or I got $90, it don't matter.
I'm
You
saying
should.
she didn't mind it until he pulled away.
Here's my
That's what I'm
point,
saying.
and here's my point. It don't matter. You got all this shit to lose,
I
and
agree.
you're gambling on the phone at 12:30, knowing you ain't divorced. So it's if you hit the panic button and the lights come on in your darkest areas, but you were the one that pushed the panic button, you can't be mad at the fallout. Like, you knew what you were doing. You knew you were still married. So whether or not she made this whole thing up or not is irrelevant, because you should have never put yourself in that position
Never.
to begin with. The
Never.
whole reason why you're having interactions with this woman is because of these types of situations. So to me, it was like, whether she made it up or not, I'm like, bro, how did you get to be on this level, the highest paid coach at one point in time in college football, and not be smart enough to be like, you know what, maybe this isn't a good idea.
And I would say this to the ladies, our loyal viewers and listeners. Men have penises, women have vaginas, but we're not that much different. So if you have anyone at your job, or the dude who bags your groceries, or the dude you just run into when you go get your mail from your mailbox,
What grocery store are you going to where they got bag groceries? This is self scan over here, baby.
oh, not over here. So, if this dude is talking to you about your marriage, he ain't doing it because he wants to be buddies. Just like I know ain't no woman hitting me up and we talk on the phone for 40, 45 minutes twice a week, and I'm just unloading my problems. She just said it. Even the most ugliest, unattractive woman thinks she's got a shot. So I don't. This is stupid. He deserves to be fired, not for doing what she say he's doing, but for being a stupid person. You can't. There's no way I would even send my child to that school to let you lead them. Your decision making leaves a little less to be desired.
Yeah, it's the most piss poor decision making from someone who's supposed to be one of the best decision makers in the university. I mean, it's literally mind boggling. Like if you read the article, he says, "Oh, no, I called her from home." When they go to the phone records, he wasn't at home; he was at some hotel. And it's like, bro, you don't even know how to get your lies straight. Make it make sense.
Yeah.
How do you not secure the relationship before you take it to that level? Is my biggest issue with this whole situation. Is like, how are you out here gambling with your penis like that when you got all this stuff to lose? It literally makes no sense. And you know this is her area of expertise. It's not like she's some random lady who just gives a motivational speak about juggling. Like, this is her area. This is all she's been doing for the past 20 years, is dealing with these types of situations. And you don't have the clarity in your mind to be like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't call her at 12:30 in the morning and be like, "Oh, you sexy. I'm jerking off right now. You think that's hot?" Like, what? Like,
I, if
as
I,
as a man, I've been extremely horny. Never been that dumb. Never been that dumb. Like, you know what? Let me call up this sexual assault survivor who I got working for me at 12:30 in the morning, and I told her about my wife. I'm doing your voice around the block. It's like, what are you doing,
my voice is a
man?
lot cooler when I do it. I will say this: if it's 12:30 at night, if you gonna be doing that self love in the hotel room by yourself, bro, just pick up your phone and go to Pornhub. This is well, you wasting it on a phone call. All right, go to some comments, then we gonna get the hell out of here. But we're gonna do our what the hell before we do. So you guys stay. I don't know if I can't speak tonight. Stay tuned for that. Mary says if it bothers you, just hang up. There are people who live to be victims. Mary says that was his creep. How dare you, Mary? She said that was my creepy grandpa voice. How dare you turn it? Dana says, how can you be an advocate for sexual assault and let this happen as long as it did? Hang up the phone, hole. No, please don't
Damn.
educate the young women in the world. Dion, I was reading and I was caught off guard with hoe. Mary says, I agree with you, Sydney. Facebook user says, yeah, he sounds real dumb. Dana says the players should be paid. The coach makes too much money. Absolutely. I'm glad they're getting money now. Mary says between some of them are anyway. Between doing it all and getting caught, not smart. Lee says, get your dick off the table, sir. LOL. Facebook user says he wasn't thinking clearly. Lee says, Coach, call it brain facts. Laugh my ass off. Oh, I'm sorry. Call it brain farts. All right, Lee. But thank you guys very much. Hang with us for just a couple more minutes, please. You waited this long. Just a couple more minutes. Dion, you want to go with your what the hell this week?
My what the hell is up with people who spend their hard-earned dollars to go to a show, and then they show up to that show 15 minutes before it's over? Why are you so late to get into the thing that you want to see? It makes no sense to me. I did a theater show over the weekend, and people showed up with 15 minutes left to go in the evening talking about where are our seats. No, you out. If you're gonna be that late, why not just get your money back? Why even bother show up? And every last one of these people looked exactly the same. And I'm gonna let your mind wander, but I'm pretty sure you all can picture the person, because it doesn't matter what color the individual is, they all look the same. These people show up late.
They use cocoa butter?
In this particular instance, yes, but I'm sure on the flip side of that, the people who don't use cocoa butter, who show up late, they all look the same too. It's like, you knew the show started at 7 o'clock. Why are you showing up at 8:30 talking about where do I sit down at? It literally, it's the most disrespectful thing you can do to the artist. You spend your hard-earned money to go to their show, and then you walk in late and you disrupt the show, especially for stand-up comedy where there's people walking in the front row. This fashionably late bullshit. You're not a celebrity. Nobody fucking knows you. Be on time like everybody else. You paid to see the show. Get there on time. It's disrespectful to the artist. Like I said, show up, enjoy the show, go home. Don't come in with 10 minutes late talking about, oh, my bad. But I had to go get something to eat, sip a little something. There's food and drink at the venue.
Oh God, no.
I,
God
I, I
forbid.
just,
God forbid, Dion.
uh,
God forbid. I
it's
didn't mean,
so annoying.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you said there's food and drink there, no, God forbid anyone spends any
I,
more money at the venue.
dude, popcorn was $7, bro. $7 for the little box.
Here's my problem. People make time for and this is going to my what the hell, in a way. People make time for what they want to make time for. People spend their money what they want to spend their money on. Starting today, if you're catching this now or you're catching it down the road, there will be no more comped tickets from Sidney Smith for any show that he performs on. And I'm gonna give you a real brief reason why. I've sold a lot of tickets so far from my special, but I get a report every week on the ticket sales and on who's buying tickets. There's a lot of comped motherfuckers who have not bought a ticket to my special, to my taping. So if the only way you seem to have found a way to support over the years is if I slipped you a free ticket and I did so out the kindness of my heart, and you can't come out to support now with your own dollar, I can't help it. It's the way I was born. I won't fucking forget it. So, you better buy a fucking ticket. Not because I need your money, but because you should be supporting with more than just your fucking mouth telling me you're proud. I'm so proud of you. I remember when you was doing this and now you're doing this. Well, I remember too. I remember you ain't paid for shit then, and I remember you not paying for shit now. Keep your words. I don't need them. Save them for your fucking kids when you can't get the Christmas gifts, I guess. You better buy a ticket. That has been not as debatable.
They're like, I just got spanked. I didn't even do
everybody,
nothing.
everybody have yourselves a great week. And thank you all who have bought tickets. I appreciate you. I love you most. All right. Everybody else have yourself a fucking day tomorrow.
Have a great week, guys. Make sure you hit that share button and leave comments on the YouTube. That always helps the algo. Appreciate you.
Somebody said, geez. Yeah, that's right. I said it.